Recognizes you for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I know the chamber is empty, the voting is over. But as regards the stimulus bill that was in front of us today, I had a request from Greg, who lives in Milford in my district, if I could read a part of his letter to me regarding that bill. Dear Congressman McCotter, I spoke with you on Friday morning. I couldn't get out everything I wanted to say because of my frustration. I would love to talk before Congress and the Senate. I would like to talk to them about the deplorable, reprehensible, and egregious waste they are considering with our tax dollars. I'm sorry this is long, but I want them to see what I see, and I want to ask them a few questions. You see, I just lost my job. The company I worked for is eliminating 700 sales positions nationwide. About 15 will be affected in Michigan. I would like to ask the Congress and Senate if they know what it's like to sit at the dinner table and tell your 11-year-old daughter that she can't get a school yearbook because we need the money to buy groceries. Do they know what it's like to see the tears in your wife's eyes when you tell her the conference call you were just on eliminated your position? Do they know what it feels like to tell your father-in-law that the daughter I married and promised to provide for, that you just lost your job? Do they know what it feels like to return the shirts you just bought for work on clearance because you really needed new shirts and now you don't even have a job? Do they know that when I told my 7-year-old son we had just had to make cuts and he responded, "Can we still have our donut on Sunday morning before church?" That's all he said he wanted. I had to tell him we'd try our best. Do they know we've made sacrifices, but you haven't? Do they know what it's like to speak with someone who was in tears over losing their job because they think they'll lose their house? How about the always upbeat guy who sounded depressed that he could lose his house because he had just lost his job? Do they know what it's like to have another coworker lose their job and they're worried about their spouse's job could be next? Do they know how fearful it is to turn your heat down at night to 59 degrees and 65 in the day when your child is asthmatic and it can flare up from the cold? Do they know about the guy I just met whose entire company just took 20% pay cuts so they wouldn't have to lay off employees? Congressman McCotter, why doesn't the Senate have the guts to reject the pork barrel spending provisions of this bill and start over? Why doesn't everybody out there get off their ivory tower, pork barrel earmarked pet projects, put them behind them, and do what we need you to do? And Greg finished. The wasteful spending they are considering is unconscionable to me. What jobs in the U.S. does that create? Earlier today, we heard the Speaker ask members of this body to remember the people at home and feel their hand upon theirs as they cast their vote upon this bill. I did not need to feel their hand upon mine. I felt their pain in my heart because I saw it every day in our Michigan neighborhood, our Michigan community. And the reality was that the bill before us is a $1 trillion mistake that will harm working families like Greg's, deprive them of hope, and damage our already recessed economy. So before today's vote, I called Greg and I talked to him. He was as set in his position as he was when he wrote me this letter. And Greg thanked me for voting against it. And the fundamental reason was this. I live in Livonia, Michigan. I live with people who are suffering, and they send me here to work for them to try to make things better. And when I go home after a vote to my wife and children, I go home to the people who are suffering as well. And I will have to look them in the eye and tell them whether this $1 trillion bill helped them or not. And as God is my witness, I will at least be able to tell them the truth that it will not. And I will tell them we will keep trying until we do right by them. I yield back the balance of my time.